Hey there guys, Mr. Donihoo. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to go through and talk about graphing lines real quick. Part of this is from the assignments we had last week. We're having a test this Friday, and so this is part of the reason why I'm putting this up. So really there are two ways to get a graph done for an equation. First, you can look at it as x and y intercept, which I'll walk through real quick how to use x and y intercept and how to get that in order to get a graph done over here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, for an x-intercept, and this is what we discussed in class, first you got to know that for an x-intercept your y value has to be 0. And that's because if I'm going to stay on the x-axis, I can't move up or down. I have to have a 0 for my y. Now what that means for the equation is that whenever I write it down, instead of writing y, I can write a 0. Now this makes things a lot easier because having that 0 there means that that's gone. Okay, negative 2x equals 12. Okay, well, what's the x value then? All right, well, if I divide with a negative 2, all right, and that would be a negative 6. Cool, so there's the x value for my x-intercept. Same thing for the y-intercept. So going through, I'm just going to say, okay, for y-intercept, my x value has to be 0. Because if I'm going to be on the y-axis here, then I don't want to move left or right to get off the axis. My x is going to be 0. Alright, well, if that's 0, then negative 2, I'm going to replace x with a 0. Alright then, that makes things simpler, because that means that now, this whole thing, that's 0. Alright, 3y equals 12, so that's all that's left over. Okay, so what's the y value then? Alright, well, let's just go ahead and divide. Negative 3, negative 3. Okay, negative 4. Now all I have to do is plot the numbers for the x and y intercept, and I've got my line. And so I'll show you what that's going to look like over here. Okay, so negative 6, 0. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 1 point. 0, negative 4. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, and there's my second point. So now it's just a matter of drawing a line through those 2 points. And there we go, line graphed. Now there is one other way to do this, and I'm going to use the same equation here to get the same graph that I just did, only I'm going to use slope and y-intercept. Okay, so what that means now is, all right, so slope and y-intercept. Sorry, the crappy y. Slope and y-intercept. So what that means is I'm going to take this equation here, and first I'm going to solve for y. Now this is why we did our literal equation stuff. I'm going to solve for that variable y. That means that this negative 2x is going to get moved over, which means I'm going to do the opposite and add it. Let's do x. Okay, negative 3y equals 12 plus 2x. Alright, to continue solving for y, still solving for y. Okay, now I'm going to get rid of that 3, that negative 3, so I'm going to divide with a negative 3, divide with negative 3, divide with negative 3. Alright, so that gives me y equals, that would be a negative 4. And I'll just change the sign there. I'm not actually going to do the division, because I don't want to deal with the decimal. Okay, now what I do want to point out here is that, same as before, you can see, there's my y-intercept. That's the same number that I get here in this equation when I solve for y. Because if I put a 0 into here for x to get my y-intercept, that means that this whole part would be gone. The only thing left over would be y equals negative 4. Boom. There's my y-intercept. So that's taken care of. Now there's only going to be one other number. Clean some of this up. There's only going to be one other number in the equation, and the only other number that you're going to use is going to be your slope. So this right here, that's my slope, that negative 2/3. So let me draw an arrow there for that. negative 2 over 3. Now what this tells me is my direction I'm going to go. So here's my starting point. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, negative 4. All right, now these numbers, negative 2 over 3, that's telling me where I'm going from this starting point. So negative 2, that would be down 2, and positive 3, that would be over 3. Okay, so I'm just going to follow those directions on the graph here, and I'll be good to go. All right, down 2 and over 3. That would be the next point there. Okay, and now I can just sketch my line. And you'll see that these two graphs, same thing. There's my x-intercept of negative 6, and if you follow the slope here, you'll see, okay, that's down 2, that's over 3. That's down 2, that's over 3. Same exact slope. So there's graphing lines from the equation.